You're listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. First off, thanks for listening. We appreciate every single one of you that supports us. This is episode 94, where we do our reviews on two relatively new guns, the Smith Wesson M&P Shield EZ 9mm and the Glock 44. We put a few rounds downrange through each, so we go over what we think, what we like, and who we think these guns are intended for. As always, thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy episode 94 of Range Minded, the Shield 9 EZ and the Glock 44 reviews. Hello and welcome to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. My name is Mark Long and I am joined by...
Were you going to say your name is Steve?
Yeah, actually. I don't know why.
Well, that's weird.
My name is not Steve Zimmerman.
And I am not Mark Long.
No, but strike that, reverse it, and that's who we are. And we are here to talk about some gun reviews. We haven't done gun reviews.
Not for a while.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, and we've got two that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, we had the opportunity to spend some time in the range. Now, these guns have been out for a little bit, so we're not breaking any new ground.
It's not brand new, but they are, I think, at least one of them is a game changer. I think is going to be a game changer for 2020.
You think so?
I think so.
You might be right.
And that one, which one do you want to start with?
I'll do whatever.
Well, let's start with the one that I don't think is going to be a game changer, but I do think it is a nice gun. Is the Smith Wesson M&P Shield EZ 9,
yeah.
Which is a mouthful saying that all in one shot. Now,
why did Smith make such an elongated name for such a small gun?
I don't know. It barely even fits on the slide. It barely fits on the slide. It's so long. M&P 9 Shield EZ. So it's the same kind of system as the regular Shield or the regular Shield EZ, or the M&P EZ rather, which started in 380. So it's a lot easier to rack the slide. Has grip safety.
It comes with an optional thumb safety.
Oh yeah, it comes with the optional thumb safety, it's not a bad gun. It's basically exactly like the 380 version.
A little bigger.
A little bit bigger. I don't think it qualifies as a shield. They shouldn't have called it the shield.
Yeah, it's kind of a shield and a half.
Yeah, because the slide's longer, the barrel's longer, I think, and but it's still very thin. Like we were talking about that. The hand grip is actually thinner than what you would want it to be.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen the original EZ, the 380 that you mentioned, that gun made a lot of ripples in the community. Obviously designed for new or inexperienced shooters, or maybe shooters that have trouble with arthritis.
Right.
And it was a big deal, like when it came out, because it is easy to rack. Like it's an easy gun to operate and handle, which was great because usually in the 380 market, those guns are pretty awful to shoot.
Yeah, like my first handgun actually was a Bersa Thunder 380, and I was like, oh cool, it's like a PPK except a lot cheaper.
And there's a reason why it was a lot cheaper.
Yeah, and I was like, wow, this sucks. Nothing against Bersa. I mean, I think they make good guns for the price point, but it was just not a pleasant thing to shoot.
And you wouldn't think that such a small round would give such a large reaction as far as recoil is concerned.
Yeah, but the guns are so small, which is a problem, like, with recoil. I will say the 380 version of the EZ though actually soaks up recoil pretty well.
Yeah, oddly enough, I don't know, and I'm sure the mass of the gun has something to do with it, but also the recoil springs and that really dampened down what you're feeling as a shooter. Yeah. And so that's what made it so nice to shoot, not just easy to manipulate the slide, but the felt recoil at least seemed reduced.
It seemed a little less snappy, a little more manageable. But yeah, I mean, it's got that easy to rack slide. And it's funny because when I shot the 380 EZ and the 9, the first thing, oh, well, that was easy. Literally. And that's probably how they got the idea for it, because somebody was like, here, check this out. I was able to rack the slide really, make the slide rackable really easily.
Right.
Oh, that is easy. Well, that's what we'll call it.
That's a great name.
Yeah. So, but I mean, if you're familiar with the M&P series, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah. Same manual of arms, like you said, optional thumb safety. The grip safety is the new thing. And you mentioned to me yesterday, it's not actually a striker fired gun either.
No, it's an internal hammer, which also is, from what I understand, makes the slide easier to manipulate, because the geometry of actually having the hammer as a lever to overcome instead of the striker pin, for some reason, it was just it made it a lot lighter to rack. So yeah, it is an internal hammer, not a I guess it would be inside the slide.
A shrouded hammer or an internal hammer, instead of a striker. Which you can kind of tell on the trigger too, a little bit. There is that little bit more of it's still the M&P 2.0 trigger, which is pretty good. Yeah. Especially compared to the first gen. But you can tell there's a little bit of... Yeah,
there's no stacking or anything like what you might think on a revolver or something. It's nice. And the 9 I felt was the same, or at least pretty similar.
Yeah. The only things I really didn't like though is that grip is too thin. I think it is really too thin for my hands, at least.
Well, I think we both felt the same way when we shot it the other night, that it was it almost felt, and maybe it's just perceived by myself. So the grip safety, I think, had something to do with why I didn't like the way the grip felt.
That's what I was getting to. Yeah,
it's not like a 1911 where it pivots at the point of where the slide comes across to the frame. Mm-hmm. It pivots at the bottom towards, where your pinky or the heel of your hand might be, not where your pinky is, because that's the front of the strap, but right on the back strap at the heel of your hand. Yeah. And so it pivots towards the top, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe, but if you Google a picture of it, you'll be able to see.
So and that's not the first gun that had that type of a safety. I mean, that's been around before. But for some reason, and maybe just in my mind, it felt like it created almost like a wedge or something in my hand. And as it fired, it felt almost like the gun was working up out of my hand.
Yeah, I felt like mine was like laterally like moving. It wasn't sitting flush with my hand because of that little wedge of the grip safety. And so I think I was losing my grip, and I wasn't able to grip it as well and have follow-up shots as well as I normally do.
Yeah, and I don't know, and maybe that grip just needed to be a little bit wider, not so long.
Sure.
Because it did really feel like there was a lot of pivot left or right.
Yeah, there's kind of some free play there.
It's hard to explain, and it might just be us. Maybe we have the special hands. Yeah.
Well, one thing I will say though is once I did tighten it up, like I tightened up my support hand, then I was able to keep everything there. But I really had to apply more pressure than kind of what I'm used to, but maybe that's a good thing for new shooters, that you have to have a good solid grip to make sure that thing's going to shoot where you want it to.
And it's not inaccurate by any means.
No, it's shot just fine.
I didn't feel like I was losing accuracy from the bad grip.
The follow-up shots were really what, like, for me, like my first shot was usually dead on, then second one was getting low and all that, and I think it was really just mainly that grip.
Which is, it's funny because normally you wouldn't say anything like that up for a 9.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be an issue, and it felt like there was more recoil than necessary in the 9, and I don't know why.
I was going to say it felt more snappy than the 380 did, believe it or not. Yeah, because they're about the same size, I think.
Yeah, maybe the 9's a little bit bigger,
but not by much.
Yeah, it won't fit in the 380 holsters or anything, so it's a little bigger.
Really? Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know why it felt that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't a bad gun. I wouldn't necessarily buy one, but for a new shooter, I think that's a great option.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe if, like you have a friend or a significant other who wants to get into shooting and they want to shoot the same caliber as you, because obviously 9 is cheaper than 380 to shoot and practice with or whatever. But I think, like I said, having, the option for the safety, but also having that grip safety is a good thing for new shooters. Yeah. To make sure that you do have a good solid grip and everything, and that you are getting the fundamentals down. But, or if you do have problems with, gross motor skills or fine motor skills, you have pain in your hands, like you said, it's a helpful thing. So,
and you're right with that grip safety, because it pivots at the bottom of the gun instead of the top. If your grip is lacking in any way, that gun's not going to go off.
Right.
So yeah, there's that, and that's, I'm sure, why they decided to pivot at the bottom of the gun.
Yeah, I mean, you don't notice it really when you're shooting, but you do have to be cognizant of it being there. I can imagine if somebody's nervous, it's not going to fire, and so. But it's nice, and it's pretty affordable. I think I didn't really check the MSRP, but
I know the 380s are like $375 or something. It's pretty affordable.
Yeah, MSRP on the EZ9 is $479, which I think is a little pricey, but that's also MSRP and not street price. So
yeah, and like you, I would not buy this gun for myself to use by any means. There's other, I'm not, just because I'm a Glock fanboy. No, I own one Smith, but it's an old revolver.
Yeah.
I would buy some of the 2.0 series.
Yeah, I do like the trigger improvements that they did over the first one. I actually had a first gen M&P Shield 9, just regular Shield, and it fit my hand pretty well, but I just couldn't shoot it worth a damn. And maybe that's just because it was a little earlier in my firearms journey, really before I got any kind of real training. But I didn't ever feel. It felt comfortable in the hand, but it didn't feel comfortable shooting it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I liked the Shield when they came out. To me, that was a big deal when they came out with the regular Shield.
Yeah.
And then when they did the Mod 2 or whatever in the Shield, that was even better because they improved the grip and
the trigger and everything,
And in their full size, that 5-inch in the 2.0 is one of my favorite guns to shoot. Yeah,
the full-size duty guns, the 2.0, the M&P 2.0, those are great. Those are great firearms, and I think you can customize them now and get Apex kits for them and everything if you really wanted to. So I have nothing against Smith & Wesson, semi-automatics. Yeah. So, and they really are making something for everybody. I mean, it's just pulled up the Smith & Wesson website, and there's 18 or 24 different kinds of guns, but everything from the performance centers all the way to the Shield EZ, and they still make SD9s.
Oddly enough, and that's not a terrible gun.
No, I would say. So let me ask you this: would you buy an SD9, or would you, if you had to pick between that or the Shield EZ, which one would you pick?
Probably the EZ.
Really? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it does have the M&P trigger in there. And
so you realize, or did you know that the Glock and Smith & Wesson got in some litigation over that?
Over the SD9? Mm-hmm. No, I didn't know that.
There were some blatant infringements on. If you pull apart the two of them side by side and you look inside there.
Oh, the internals are.
You realize that, man, that looks a lot like a Glock inside there.
I wonder how that happened. Are you saying that people in the firearms industry copy each other?
Like Springfield? Did you see their new PDW?
Yeah, I sure did.
It looks exactly like a Maxim.
Yeah, exactly. That's not going to fly for very long.
and their Hellcat looks remarkably like a 365.
I know, isn't that strange? And the magazine's like a stack and a half, just like the 365. And I just remember seeing something online where it's like somebody must have gotten mad at SIG and left, and then went over to Springfield. And but I mean,
and the community is super small, anyways. Like, I know we've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. There's folks that have worked from one manufacturer to go to the next manufacturer.
Yeah, and you have a certain set of skills, and there's only so many. There's only so many gun manufacturers, and
Yeah, and I know, I guarantee they're filling out non-disclosures and everything, but they also know exactly how far they can go without violating that NDA to create something. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, manufacturers will probably pick up competitors' guns and reverse engineer them and take them apart and everything for research. So.
I actually know of a customer that works for a large firearms manufacturer that lives in Boise, and that's his job.
Tough gig.
It would be tough. He's brought some cool stuff.
Yeah, I bet. So definitely not a bad gun, not a favorite of either of ours, but.
No. If it was to buy something to train with, I'd probably just do the 380 EZ.
Sure. Because that's going to shoot softer.
I think it does shoot softer.
It's better for the basics, I think. But
it is more expensive, like you're saying, as far as rounds are concerned. But
it's honestly negligible. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if you're buying, it depends on how much shooting you're doing, I guess.
Yeah. Either is a good gun.
So, if you were really training, I know what you would buy.
Maybe we've talked about this a couple times.
A Glock 44.
I think the last time I said I'm buying it.
And you did you?
I haven't yet. I will be buying that gun. I decided. I know I said this is the first gun I'm buying in 2020, but then that pesky AR build
things happened,
popped up, and
when you find things that you're able to use that aren't being used,
there is a definite benefit for working where there is a gunsmith.
Yeah,
and people are like, I don't want this part or piece, which, for the most part, each individual piece is worthless.
Yeah.
But then when you put them together, they happen to make a functioning upper.
Full functioning upper, why not?
Yeah.
That's great.
It's worth it.
Yeah, and now you've got a new toy to play with.
Oh, it's going to be awesome.
So, but we'll have to bring that up next time because we've got the Glock 44 to talk about. We talked about it a little bit in our new guns episode or whatever, but we actually got to shoot it this time.
Yeah.
And the first thing that I thought when I picked this thing up, since it's all polymer, except for a couple of components internally, it's so light. It's like a toy.
Yeah, it's weird when you first pick it up.
You think it's like an airsoft gun or something because it literally is that light, and it's all like slides made of plastic. Obviously the frame's plastic and everything, but
Well, I bought a Umarex 19, a Glock 19, airsoft, or not airsoft, but a BB gun.
Yeah.
Just for some training purposes.
Sure.
I was all excited about it. It weighs way more than a Glock 19.
Yeah.
But when I went to put it in my holsters, it doesn't fit.
Really?
It's not the same size.
Is it bigger or smaller?
It's actually, from trigger guard to top of slide, it's quite a bit taller.
Oh, interesting.
Stupid.
I wonder if they have to do that for like licensing or trademark reasons or something.
But it says Glock perfection on the packaging.
Clearly, it's not perfection if it's not up to Glock standards.
As soon as I tried to slip it in my holster, I was like, well, what? This is the point. I bought this gun just for dry fire practice and for showing firearm safety in some of my classes. This was the point.
Yeah.
Well.
Oops.
Not so much.
Oh, well.
But
yeah, speaking of the Glock 19, the 44 is the same size as a 19.
Yeah, so we decided to tinker around with the frame before we shot it.
Yeah.
And I'll be damned, the Glock 19 magazine slides right in there.
And it locks into place, too.
It clicks.
And then it looks like the 19 slide would actually fit.
Almost fits.
And it almost does, but there's the ejector's in the way.
Yeah, there's the ejector, and then one of the other components on the housing sits a little higher than the 19. So the back plate keeps it from sliding in.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily fire it with a 19 slide and a magazine in there, but because obviously rimfire, is
totally different,
ignited a different way. However, that's how close the size is. So, if you have a 19 or you carry a 19, this is going to be a great cheap way to train, I think. And I mean, I don't own a Glock, but I love shooting this thing.
It's a ton of fun.
This thing was great.
The very first round for me was like, whoa. And I deliberately paid attention to you when you fired it, because I shot it before you did, and before you showed up, and that's what I was waiting for, was just that look on your face, like, well.
Yeah, and I think the look on my face was it. That's great.
Yeah, the recoil impulse, I think, is less than like a Ruger Mark II or Mark III.
Yeah, we agreed on that. Yeah, because it just stays on target. It doesn't go anywhere. Yeah,
once we started getting, we shot 50 rounds through it that last time I shot it, and started off kind of slow, but then we started picking up the pace,
doing mag dumps,
and it does pretty well.
Yeah, and I mean those that box of 50 was like $3 a piece.
Yeah, we were using the arms core.
Yeah, the dirty stuff.
And it's greasy. The cartridges are really, whatever they coat them with, it's kind of gross.
Yeah, it's like waxy or oily or something.
And it smokes a lot as that stuff burns off.
Yeah,
which is
noticed
nice.
that.
So Glock, when they did their testing, they actually did the Blazer brass, or the Blazer 22.
Yeah.
And that stuff's not really the cleanest stuff either. And I think they did it on purpose, just to show, hey, this will run, and it did.
Yeah, so we took it a step below that to make sure, and it actually ran just fine. The only problem we had was a failure to feed when I let the slide go on the very first one.
Round. So maybe it wasn't seated or something. I don't know. But
well, and I decided to chance it and put that round in too afterwards, and it worked just fine. And we didn't have no failure to eject or failure to feeds after that. So
yeah, and it's interesting. Like you mentioned the weight. It's kind of like the FN57. The slide is it's
that kind of polymer.
It's
right?
a chassis that has everything else is polymer around the metal chassis. So it still has some mass to it. It still has some integrity to it. It's not going to deform under heat.
Yeah, it doesn't feel cheap. It just feels light.
Yeah, it's very light. It's weird until you pick it up in your hand and you go for it. From what we can tell, as I said, we tore it apart and was comparing it to the 19. We haven't confirmed yet with a Glock. We're talking with some people that know some people. Yeah. It might actually run like if you have an aftermarket trigger, SSVI or Terran or something like that. It might just drop in and still work with that connector. We're not 100% sure on that yet.
Yeah. You'd have to get it really taken apart, and you'd have to get one of those triggers to try it out. But
we could have done it. I didn't want to tear. It was actually a brand new one that hadn't been shot. I didn't want to start tearing it apart.
But I mean, it looks like you can put sights, and you can. I mean, people are going to start making accessories for the 44. Like that was the other thing that I was thinking about was the magazine. It's only got a 10-round magazine.
It comes
I think
with 2 10-round magazines, which is really frustrating.
Yeah, they could have thrown another one in there.
Yeah, at least another one. All Gen 5s come with 3 mags, so why couldn't they have thrown one in there with it?
Yeah, and the thing that was kind of surprising for me that it was only 10 rounds because it looks like a double stack magazine. So you could fit twice as many 22 rounds in there.
I'm just
for twice the fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to assume that they were just worried about getting this gun out into the hands of the consumer, that they just hurried and made a 10-round magazine.
Right.
That's clearly an assumption. That's probably incorrect anyways. The truth is, honestly, that rimfire is hard to double stack.
That's true, too.
Because it doesn't stack uniformly.
Yeah.
But I also know for 100% there's other manufacturers, Kel-Tec, Taurus, that are making double stack magazines that are feeding just fine.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because that was it the P33 that Kel-Tec makes. I mean, that holds 33 rounds of of 22 ammo,
and that Taurus 22, I can't remember what model it is. It's a fairly new model for Taurus. It's like 17 or 20 rounds. I can't remember what it is.
The only other reason I thought of maybe was just for magazine restrictions, because it is a 22, and so it's a little more accessible. Then you don't have to worry about California compliant versions.
Well, it's not California compliant. It's not on their DOJ list.
Well, it's so new. Yeah,
they haven't added anything to that list for.
I was going to say it's new and it won't be. So which is unfortunate, but because I think
there's other states. I don't know if Illinois they have a magazine restriction. They don't.
No, they don't. No, thankfully.
So yeah, maybe.
But I think this thing is going to be a great tool, and I think you're going to start seeing it. I've said it, half a dozen times now, but I think you're going to start seeing it in more classes. I think you're going to see it in
you're right.
Basic pistol classes, first shots. I really think that this thing's going to be able to take the mystery and the fear out of people with shooting sports. If they're interested but they're scared of all the recoil and everything, you hand somebody this as their first gun, they're going to say, oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Anybody, even a child. You know what I mean? And it's got literally the same manual of arms as any other Glock. I mean, it's just like a Gen 5.
It is a Gen 5, so it's got the slide lock on both sides, left and right. You can obviously move the mag release either side.
Yep. It's got the trigger safety like any other Glock it would. So,
And my son, we shot it before you got here.
Yeah.
And so he put, I think we ended up putting at least 125 rounds through to each. And he loved it, which is the problem, because that means I have to buy another one. So it's hard to explain. Even if you're not a Glock person, I think that gun is very easy to use.
Exactly. Yeah.
And affordable. I mean, you can buy right now, anyways. You can buy a brick of Blazer, for example, or their arms core. I mean, you're under $4 for 50 rounds.
Yeah.
Or you can buy a big bucket of it from somewhere, and it's super affordable.
For under 50, I think. Yeah.
Get all the trigger time you want in.
Yeah, I mean, and to be able to practice those fundamentals and stuff, and then also do mag dumps, because that's what I was doing. I was more having fun with just seeing how fast I could shoot it, because I felt comfortable doing it. Like I was talking about yesterday, sometimes in classes where you're wanting to push your skills a little bit, it can get a little overwhelming when you're shooting very quickly 4, 5, 6 rounds out of 9mm or whatever your carry, ammunition might be. But to shoot, to mag dump this thing really quickly was a lot of fun, and it kind of gets you used to operating a firearm quickly. Yeah. I think there's some benefit to that. So, man, this thing is great.
Just go buy one.
Yeah, seriously, it's a cool gun. I mean, it also, like I talked about, I think a couple episodes ago, wanting to buy a PPQ 22. Getting a 22 caliber version of your carry gun, or the type of manufacturer that you carry. I think we're going to see more of those to get more people into the shooting sports. But I would even buy one of these. Well,
like Tactical Solutions, which as friends of the store, we like Taxol.
Yeah, they're great.
They made a conversion kit. I think there's some other companies out there. Lone Wolf might have, maybe, I can't remember, made a 22 conversion. And I've heard that today, actually. Well, why don't you just buy a conversion? You could, but I don't think it's going to run as efficiently.
Yeah, when you can buy something that's dedicated 22 and has been spec'd and tested by the factory and everything. But I think this would be. I would love to get one of these. So in addition,
so if Glock is listening, this actually is important. So one of our customers bought one, didn't buy it from us, but he bought that in the threaded barrel, because you can buy an additional threaded barrel, and they're about $200 for the threaded barrel.
It's not bad.
And so he decided to run it suppressed, and he ran a few different rounds of suppressed through it, and it was keyholing.
Really?
And they checks the baffles on the suppressor. It's not striking baffles or anything.
Interesting.
But for some reason, he could run the supersonics through the threaded barrel and suppressor, and it was just fine. But it was throwing rounds and keyholing at like 15 feet. Like,
wow.
So
interesting. I wonder why that is.
Something going on there. I don't know if it's overpressure or something strange.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to put a booster on that can, which not normally what you have to do with a 22.
Yeah, because you have to assume that they're selling a threaded barrel, then they have to have tested it. Yeah. You know, I wonder what kind of suppressor they were using or something like that to test from the factory.
Maybe there's a Glock suppressor coming out.
What do you even call it?
Perfection.
The Glock Zero? The only one with letters. Yeah, no, but I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot of customization come out for this. I mean, and I think you're right too that you're going to either be able to take triggers that already work for the family of Glocks and put them in here. Same thing with sights. Same thing with magazines. Maybe. I bet you Magpul will make like a 30 round, 25 round magazine for this, or like a 50 round mag or something.
Men 2. Come on, a Men 2.
Yeah, there you
company,
go.
jump aboard. Let's get this happening.
Yeah, but I mean, all of the components like the slide releases, the magazine buttons. I mean, you could probably swap them piece by piece.
Yeah, just from visual inspection, everything looked like it was pretty standardized Glock, which is good for them because then they don't have to make a bunch of different SKUs for this particular gun. They can just pull stuff off the line.
Well, it's cheaper for them and cheaper for us because I mean, this gun MSRP is less than 400 or right around 400, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super affordable.
Yeah, and I think just being able to it gives you less excuse to not train. If you don't have any money, you can blast 100 rounds of 22 ammo for less than $10.
Yeah.
And keep those skills up.
Yeah.
So, and I think we both learned that we could probably do with some more.
Well, I know I could
some
use
more training.
Shooting. Yeah, I know I could use more trigger time.
So, yeah, no, it's a great gun though. I'm excited about it. We talked about it in our new guns episode that there's a lot of 22 action stuff coming up. What was some other stuff that was 22 related? Do you remember?
There's the Vector.
Yeah, the Vector in 22.
Yeah, the Bagheera. They make their bolt gun in precision now in a 22.
Yeah.
I can't remember. There's some other stuff.
Yeah, but 22s, don't sleep on it. Cheap, good fun. I mean, that's the other thing about it. But I think you shoot 400 rounds of 9mm, your hand's going to get tired. You're going to be fatigued, by the noise and by the concussion and all that kind of stuff. And, especially if you're not like an operator and doing it every day or whatever, but shooting 400 rounds of 22.
All day long.
Yeah, that's great. So, so those are the two. We'll have to test some more.
I'm always down for shooting on somebody else's dime.
Yeah, exactly. And not even our guns.
Yeah, it's even better. I didn't have to clean it.
Yeah, because we do have one for rent. They're both available for rent here at Independence.
We'll use the rental guns to test them out.
Yeah, and also I imagine if you go to your local gun store, they're going to have it for rent as well. Because, I mean, these things are out already. Like, we've got a ton of them, unless they all sold today.
No, there's still some more out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's no supply problems like with the 365 when that first came out.
Yeah, and as far as we can tell, there's no recoil problems like the Colt Python. They're already having problems with the brand new Python.
Yeah,
at least it sounds like
What are the problems with that we've been hearing?
There was some non-firing. I think they had some problem with the cylinder advancing correctly.
What was it, a $1,500?
Yeah, it's a $1,500 gun. Nice gun.
But we heard from some people not hand fitted. It's not. It's all machine, which is not what the original Colt was either, or the Colt Python.
They had one guy that was making those Pythons run properly,
and that's why they were so smooth. We talked about it with Dakota in that last episode with higher end guns that are hand fitted. You really have to take your time and make sure everything functions well with that, with the tight tolerances.
There's a reason why they're expensive.
Yeah, because you're paying for somebody's time and hand fitting, and that's why there's not that many of them either. So,
what do you do?
Stick with a Glock, I guess.
Well, I'm okay with that.
Or a Walther.
Yeah, okay.
So, well, let us know if you want us to review any other guns. I know this is a little bit shorter of an episode, but I think we were concise this time. So, if you appreciate the conciseness, let us know. Podcast at iishooting.com. And if there's any guns you want us to review that are out there, if we can get our hands on them, we will, and let you know how they are. So, but thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right, be safe.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Range Minded. Find us online at Range Minded Podcast on Facebook.
or send us an email at podcast@iishooting.com. We're always happy to get feedback, episode suggestions, whatever you want to send us, really. And be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and pretty much wherever else you get your podcasts from. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.